The Vase. You three, distinguished young people in demolition, reconstruction, and studies, you will represent our youth association at the first Congress of the Fryosteriki Shujugend. This is a glorious mission, be worthy of it. And above all, take care of the Vase. After the ceremonial speech, the General Secretary shook hands with each of us, wished us a pleasant journey, and we hurried cheerfully to the rickety Ford to embark on our glorious mission to Vienna in the summer of 1946, just a year after the war ended. We sat somewhat uncomfortably in the car, because, under the motto, we are traveling be care anyway, we had packed quite carelessly. Erzi, for example, besides her trench coat, brought her sister's woolen suit and a blanket. Zoe carried a guitar. Such things come in handy at a congress. We also brought a large quantity of soy sausage, a jar of jam, a jar of molasses, and a tray of cornbread. My mom packed the cornbread. Additionally, there was the vase, Matich's giftofage, a huge horrend porcelain vase, beautiful, fragile, and heavy. The driver greeted you warmly. Zoe, the leader of the delegation, sat in the front seat next to the driver. Erzi, the guitar, the vase, and I squeezed into the back seat. We were in high spirits, singing at the top of our lungs. The April sky smiled down on us. The car was somewhat rickety, but no matter, it rolled along fairly well. We planned to be in Vienna by midnight and to attend the Congress at the Mozart Hall astrodelegates at 9 the next morning. We had hardly any noteworthy adventures on the way. The radiator boiled over once, we had to patch a tire once, and the engine stalled a few times, but after some vigorous cranking, it came back to life. By midnight, we were still only at Hegeshalem. But no matter, we still had plenty of time until 9 in the morning. The border guards were polite and kind. They courteously congratulated us in our Congress mission and asked for our papers. Everything was in order. Passport, visa, letter of appointment, all sorts of permits. Very well. And the car's papers? What do you mean, the car's papers? Well, comrade, a driver's passport and the car's exit permit. We looked at each other. We didn't have those. Each of us had only been given our own documents by the secretariat. How could you come without papers? Zoe attacked the driver. Me, I'm just the technical staff. You're the leader of the delegation, you dolt, said Ferry, the driver, indignantly. Of course, he was just as much a member of MADISC as rest of us. Please issue him some sort of permit, we suggested to the head of the border guards. Me, my dear friends, that's not possible. But you can see that we're a delegation. We see, but there are trains in the world as well. Actually, there won't be a train until tomorrow evening, unless you can catch something on the Austrian side that will take you to Vienna. You're not going to deaden the car, are you? We have no choice. Our driver, who had been her best buddy until then, turned crimson with anger. Well, get out quickly, because I'm heading back to Pest. I distinctly remember seeing the car's documents, said Erzi, the third member of the delegation. Gizi had them at the secretariat and put them in a green folder. Please be so kind as to call MADISC, Gizi will tell you. I doubt Gizi will be the read knight, the commander said grimly. Besides, it doesn't matter what Gizi says, I can let Anyon cross the border without proper documents. Especially not a car. We'll call MADISC in the morning, and you can decide whether to stay here for 2 days until the papers arrive or return to Budapest for them. Comrades, Zoe shouted in desperation. The Congress starts at 9 in the morning at the Mozart Hall. As representatives of Hungarian, we take the train, the border guard suggested again kindly. And where's that train? Wait a moment. Half an hour and a half. We sat sullenly around the ink-stained desk. In the next room, there was an agitated German phone conversation. Ferry sat with his back to us, and we didn't dare speak to him. The border guard commander returned. He was beaming. Well, it's settled. We've received permission from the neighbors for you to drive through no man's land to the nearest Austrian railway station. Come here, he motioned to Ferry. Here's the map, follow this route, it's 7 kilometers. 3 armed guards will accompany you, the delegates will get off at the railway, and you will return with the car and report back here. Goodbye and good luck. We traveled in the Ford like sardines. The miserable car barely chugged along. It was 2 in the morning. And it began to rain slowly. It wasn't a playful, quick April shower but a stubborn, grim, cold drizzle. It smeared the car's windows and filled our already despondent hearts with a harsh fear. We moved along the unknown road in no man's land with the silent driver and sleepy border guards. They, too, wanted to get rid of us as quickly as possible and go back to sleep. We, on the other hand, hoped they would take us far away, if possible, all the way to Vienna. The car stopped suddenly. Get out, Ferry said. Where are we? At the railway station. We didn't see any railway. It is on the right. There's nothing there. Oh yes, there is, one of the escorts said eagerly. Just a few hundred steps. Couldn't you take us there, car? No, but, the road ends here. No, hurry up, you're in a rush, and so am I. Then we noticed how sleepy we were. We had thought we would be in Vienna by midnight, tomorrow morning at the Mozart Hall. What do you mean, tomorrow morning? It's already morning, dawn is breaking. I didn't remember how we unloaded our luggage. A suitcase. Another huge suitcase with a vase, a backpack with food, a blanket, a guitar, a pair of boots we packed for some reason, and all this on the muddy ground, with the rain drizzling down, and pitch dark. The car turned around. We still saw its ruby lights. Not anymore, and there we were in the vast Austrian night, with a few shillings in our pockets, no flashlight, no map. Our eyes gradually adjusted to the dark, and then we saw the railway station. It was a pretty little house, quite deserted. We saw no tracks near by, the train must not run off in here. But we could get information from the station master. We went there. The door was locked. We knocked. No answer. Then, going around the little house, we knocked on the shutters. First politely, with our fingers. Then less politely, with our fists. Finally, we threw a few stones. The latter method worked. Someone flung open the shutter, and a head wrapped in a nightcap popped out, shouting to ask who the lunatics were banging on his window at night. Zoe gathered all his German knowledge. Bit, wir sind Mitglieder der Ungarischen Jugenddelegation. Ungarisch Jugenddelegation, the man shouted. What am I, a monument? Are you visiting me? Dirty, rotten rascals. Bang. The bang was a bucket of water. It didn't matter much, it was raining anyway, but it dampened our spirits. Sir, Zoe shouted, soaking wet, you misunderstand. We're just looking for the railway station. Railway station, at my place. Swine. Sir, where's the railway? We shouted desperately. The man said something in reply, but this directions didn't lead us to the railway station, and he slammed the shutters angrily. No problem, Zoli said cheerfully, sneezing as he had received most of the cold shower. We'll find the railway using scouting methods. After all, Austria is a civilized country. Its railway is over 100 years old. It is impossible that there isn't a railway station within 5 or 6 kilometers. Right, we said with little enthusiasm. So, always two of us will go looking for the railway while the third stays with the luggage. We'll take it turns. Whoever finds the railway station will signal the others with a whistle. Maybe someday I'll write about this night in detail in an adventurous youth novel. But now, just thinking about it makes me catch a cold and fall asleep. We trudged in the mud and rain, our shoes stuck in the clay, straining our eyes, and nothing. Erzi once thought we had returned to Hungary, because she saw a kilometer marker with a Hungarian inscription in fright. It read, 186 kilometers. Then we encountered a snarling white dog. We wanted to shoo it away, but we didn't know what Austrian dogs respond to. And we kept going, again and again, determined, desperate, and it must have been around 4 in the morning when Erzi came back triumphantly. We found the train station. Barely a kilometer away, just beyond that little grove Becca used. Now it was already dawn. See, we could see the trees, and Avendistan farms. There it was, with a train standing there, not very elegant, half of it livestock cars, and the train was full of smugglers, who told us we cold board too. Budenly if we were quiet enough not to alert the border guards. The train was leaving in an hour and would arrive in Vienna at 11. At 11, but the Congress starts at 9. Then walk, Erzi retorted indignantly. We admitted she was right and accepted the smugglers' terms. We grabbed our gear, which was thoroughly soaked by the rain and now weighed a ton, and set off in the direction of the sparse trees. Set off. We dragged ourselves. Our limbs felt like lead, and even without the baggage, we would have barely limped. But like this. Come on, Erzi urged us, the train leaves in an hour, maybe even sooner. Let's go, Zoli grumbled, with these 2 huge suitcases. Why did you bring so many clothes? It's not the clothes that are heavy. It's the vase. We lifted it too. It was indeed terribly heavy. As if we couldn't have just sent a bouquet of flowers. Or a certificate. Back then, we were supposed to travel by car. Well, Erzi put the blanket down on the ground. I'll tell my mom I lost it. After a major internal struggle, I took the jar of molasses out of my backpack, and we ate the cornmeal cake. Only Zoli kept hauling, sweating, panting, silently. We must have walked for ages. We were already in the grove when we heard a sharp whistle. The train, Erzi shouted. It must be leaving any moment. Hurry, I fretted. I can't, Zoli said dully, I'm putting it down. Wait, we'll help. For a few steps, we carried the huge vulcanized fiber suitcase together, along with the ton-heavy Horrend porcelain inside, when the suitcase handle broke, by the inscrutable will of fate. Let's push it. We can't. It'll break. I don't know who said at first that we should leave it. But we had been thinking it for minutes. After all, porcelain is fragile. And what does the Fodge need a vase for anyway? Ridiculous. No one at home will ask about it. And if they do, we'll bear the responsibility together. We fell, it broke, it was left somewhere in the field. We left the suitcase and fled without looking back. Zoli carried the guitar for a while longer, but then he put that down too, and we only carried our small bundles of underwear, and in our soaked raincoats, with muddy, squelching shoes, we aimed to catch the train. Erzi, ever so cautious, fell flat on her face. Because when we stepped into the dimly lit carriage, she tripped over something. A box or a bucket, it's unclear, but she fell, cried out, and there was a clatter, and suddenly the small train station came to life. The Austrian border guards surrounded the train and started the passport control. The carriage was full of people. Men and women carrying bundles, sacks, and cardboard boxes, who promptly produced their papers and gave us dirty looks. We calmly produced our documents and handed them to the authorities. Do you speak German? Yes. The man looked at the papers for a long time, thoughtfully. You are an official delegation? Yes. You were sent from Pest to the Fodge Congress in Vienna yesterday? Yes. Yes. The carriage erupted in laughter. We didn't understand why. Well, get off then. It must have been 5 in the morning. And in the morning light, we saw each other. Well, no. We really didn't look like a delegation. Our eyes were red from lack of sleep. Our shoes, clothes, even the tips of our ears were wet and muddy. Zoli had stubble on his face, Erzi's skirt was torn, probably from the fall. I won't even speak about myself out of modesty. The interrogation was long. Our answers were confused and desperate. But the papers were excellent. This made the border guards reconsider. So you came by car to Hegeshalem. We'll call them. In the meantime, the train will leave. The train will wait for you. It waited. The inspection lasted until 9 in the morning. But it waited. When we got back into the carriage, among our fellow travelers who eyed us suspiciously, we looked at our watches. At that moment in Vienna, at the Mozart Hall. Actually, we should turn back, Zoli said, hanging his head. We missed the Congress, and the gift vase. Yes, the vase. Now that the train was rattling along, the vase suddenly seemed an incomprehensible, even capital crime. How could we go empty-handed? What would we say? After all, even in the nice greeting letter we brought from the Secretariat to the Congress, it said that as a small gift, they should accept with love. A gift shouldn't be asked for, Erzi said, we'll act as if we don't know about the vase, and so will they. It was noon, and the train still hadn't reached Vienna. At 12:30, it turned out it never would. It only went as far as Schweichat, a suburb of Vienna. This new blow was so heavy that it didn't even affect us. Erzi was busy modestly tucking her torn skirt under herself. Zoli sneezed in his wet clothes like Nemexek from the Paul Street Boys. I was thinking about the disciplinary action awaiting us at home and how at 4 years old, I nearly died of diphtheria. What a simple solution that would have been. We were in Schweichat at 3. How we got from there to the Fodge Central House remains a mystery, because by then I was asleep standing up. On some tram, we told some conductor that we were a delegation, some kind, plump lady explained something, we transferred somewhere, got off somewhere, and suddenly we were in front of a large school building, where boys and girls in blue shirts and red scarves hug us, shouting that we were their loyal guests, their Hungarian democratic friends. We'd like to sleep and wash up, we muttered. Now, they asked in astonishment. The Congress is ongoing, right now, dear friends. Sleep, wash, we repeated stubbornly. Later, with our luggage and everything, they pushed us into a car and drove us to the radiant building of the Mozart Hall, up the marble steps. Black puddles of mud formed on the mirror-like stairs wherever we stepped. No begging allowed here, a horrified organizer stopped us. Pissed, they're not begging, that's the Hungarian delegation, whispered our guide. Just give us 5 minutes. I'll put on a dry shirt in the restroom, said Zoli, whose nose was now more like a ripe tomato than a nose. 5 minutes, we requested as well. All right, but hurry, I'll inform the presidency that you're here. Huge mirrors all around the stairwell, everywhere we looked, a frightening grimace grinned back at us. Our disheveled, dirty, dragging selves, we must have looked like the mournful Hungarians after their last, defeat-ridden raid. And in every turn of the staircase stood vases. Beautiful Chinese porcelains, mice and marvels, a meter tall, slender, vases. 5 minutes, you comb your hair, I'll change into a dry shirt, Zoli whispered, and what if, we stole one? Quickly, change your shirt. Erzi and I tittied ourselves. I sewed her torn skirt with 3 big stitches, she shook the mood off my soaked raincoat, we tried to make our sadly hanging hair look a bit more feminine, we wiped some clay of 4 shoes with a piece of newspaper, and we waited for Zoli. But Zoli didn't come, or their Austrian friend returned for you stew, tapping his foot impatiently. Zoli didn't come. I'll go get him, said the kind Heinrich, and he rattled the door of the men's restroom. And 2 minutes later, Zoli indeed appeared. Just as dirty, just as soaking wet, in a wrinkled shirt, holding the huge Horrend vase in his hand. I put down my clothes, he said in a choked voice. Friends, Heinrich urged us. It doesn't matter anymore, let's go. And we set off across the marble floor, our shoes squelching with water, staggering from lack of sleep. Zoli snorted like a horse, 2 buttons were missing from my raincoat, Erzi's skirt had torn again at the seam, the wing doors of the hall opened silently, the Austrian youths lined up, trumpets blared, drums rolled, film cameras turned towards us, the Hungarian delegation, 100 loudspeakers blared, 400 youths stood up in the hall, cheering in 100 languages. In the city of Vienna, the Rakici march resounded. I'll give it to you before I break it, Zoli said as his surprising ceremonial speech, and he placed the vase in the middle of the hall. We remembered nothing else. None of us did, because the moment after handing over the vase, we were already sitting in the honorary presidium. And we were asleep, snoring deeply, with drool trickling from the corners of our mouths, innocently, sweetly, in wet clothes, in wet shoes. We slept through everything. The speeches, the lunch, the breaks, the flag exchange. Everything. On the 3rd day, we dried out and went home.